Imagine a world where doctors help you get healthy and not just respond to your sickness. A world where experts empower you to feel good and bring peace, joy, and love to yourself and the world. An integrative approach to health. Dr. Arlene DeHomko is on a mission to wake medicine up and raise the bar of health with her show, The MultiDimensional MD. Call 678-495-4345 to talk to her live on air, or put your comments on Facebook Live at UI Media Network with your questions, concerns, suggestions, or just to say hello. Don't forget to like and share and spread the message as she helps activate the natural healing force within all of us. Let's join Dr. Arlene DeHomko in bringing spirit back to medicine on the MultiDimensional MD.
This show is sponsored by Action Specialty Carts, Metro Atlanta's #1 dealer for golf cart sales, service, and rentals. Visit ascarts.com to learn more.
Hi, this is Dr. Arlene DeHomko. I am the MultiDimensional MD, and I'm here to wake up medicine because I want you to feel amazing in all aspects of your health. I want you to feel peace, love, and joy. And sometimes we might not talk about medicine and health in that way, but it is a part of how you feel and a part of helping you feel completely balanced and completely like yourself. So I want to normalize that conversation in medicine and health so that we talk about the most important things in our lives, our priorities, and what makes us feel joy and happiness, because we are multidimensional beings. When you were born, you came here as this amazing being of love and light. And that is still you today. No matter what's happened in your life, you are still that amazing being of love and light. And if we could incorporate aspects of the health, looking at more than just the physical body, but looking at your mental health, your emotional health, the environmental health and spiritual health and more, then we could do so much more in medicine. So I really want to raise the bar of medicine, to wake up medicine and bring some consciousness to it. And that consciousness is an awareness, a mild mindfulness of where you are as a being, as a person, as total health. And in that mindfulness, it's like that fifth dimension, because if you think about the 3D, that's the physical dimension, and then you add that element of time, and then you add your awareness to it, your consciousness, that's the fifth dimension. So we're going to be talking about this in the MultiDimensional MD in this show. We're going to be talking about consciousness, mind-body connection, herbs, food, and so much more in all the various episodes. And if you don't know much about me, my background is Filipino. So my parents moved here from the Philippines. I come from a background of both farmers, gardeners from the islands in the Philippines, and then also a part of the clan moved to the cities to become physicians. And so I love that background where I have these two arms and really combining that holistic, staying close to the earth and putting it together so that we have this more integrative approach to health. And my hope is that this show will really give you a fresh perspective so that you can tap into your health potential and into all of those layers of your being. So also, when it comes to being a physician, I had several aha moments in my life. In my first year of medical school, I was in a small group and I had this amazing idea. What if we studied the placebo effect? It's that innate capacity of the body to get better from within. Instead of comparing everything to it, all the medications were being compared to the placebo effect. But I thought, wow, there was a way for you to get better from within. And when I brought this up at the time, my colleagues and my attending, the physician at the time, kind of gave me a quizzical look and said, well, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. But there wasn't much more conversation than that. And I think that now is the time that we bring that conversation, because for me, that placebo effect is that love and light within you. And if we could nourish it with bringing in these different pieces of being able to look at your health from that mind, body, spirit perspective, talking about like what is stressing you in your life, or what's going on in your relationships, and how can that affect your health. So that was really important to me. We didn't talk about it much then, but I never forgot that moment. And then when I went to residency in the Bronx, so I went to medical school at Emory, and then I went to residency at Albert Einstein in the Bronx. I studied. I'm way overeducated. I've been to Harvard too, so I have all of this education, but it's really the pieces in my life of where I've been, what I've experienced, that have given me the most education and what I use the most in terms of being an integrative physician today. And I get to combine that with all these different aspects. But when I was in residency, I was in my late 20s, maybe 27 or so, and I had this feeling that I might get sick if I didn't do something. And so I started doing yoga and meditation. Hadn't done it before, but I walked by this sign. I said, you know what? Something feels like I need to go in there. And I was able to settle myself down just to become more grounded because I was so stressed out from studying. I had reflux that would keep me up at night. But within 3 weeks of doing meditation and yoga, all of that just really calmed down. And people in the hospital actually commented and said there's something different about me. And I thought, I've learned all of these things, but I didn't learn about yoga and meditation in medical school and in residency. It was outside. And I was like, why don't we bring this to our patients so that they can get better? And we don't have to rely on as many medications. And on top of that, it really reduced the cost of healthcare because there's certain things that you can do even on your own that can really help out. And for me, that's a big part of it because a sustainable healthcare is one where it's a win-win-win, where we can save money, that people can get better, and everyone can benefit. So after my pediatric residency, then I went to Dr. Andrew Weil's Integrative Medicine Fellowship in Arizona, and that really opened up my world even more, gave me a foundation for integrative medicine, and I went on from there. After that, I studied with the cranial osteopaths. So I really felt that was a part of my calling. And to do that kind of subtle osteopathy, you really had to be more grounded and settled in yourself. And I felt like my life had really led up to that moment because I had done music for half my life. And but then I went into medicine. I wondered, why did I spend so many years in music? And for me, it's because I was able to feel subtle vibrations. I could feel rhythms. And so when I found cranial osteopathy, where I got to listen with my hands to those subtle rhythms in the body, it was just another piece that really kind of pulled everything together for me. So for today's show, we're going to talk about the emotional link behind chronic pain. The thing is that ouch or perception of pain is actually processed in your brain. And so if someone tells you that it's all in your head, they're kind of right. It really is. Because if you imagine you touch something hot, before you feel it, those nerve endings in your fingertips activate a reflex loop in your spinal cord, causing you to bring your hand back without even thinking about it. And then a split second later, it reaches your brain. And that's when you feel the pain and you feel that, ouch. And so there's that level of processing. So the reflex is at the level of the spinal cord, but the perception, the intensity of the pain, the actual feeling of pain is in the brain. And that's really important to know because we can use that anatomy and that knowledge because the brain is flexible. And so we can actually shift it. And if you think about that mind-body connection, in fact, the studies have shown that emotional pain and physical pain activate similar areas in the brain. And that includes these higher areas called the cingulate, anterior cingulate cortex. So these are higher centers in the brain, and they communicate and work very closely with the limbic system or the emotional centers of the brain. And so now I'm talking about that flexibility of the brain. Imagine that you stub your toe What if you just won the lottery? You stubbed your toe. For me, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't even feel it. I would be like, this is the best. And I would be jumping up and down. But what if what if you had an argument, a big heated argument with your spouse, your partner, and you were already really upset? That, stubbing your toe could bring you to the point of tears, even if it was actually the same amount of injury. So the emotional processing is really intertwined with how we feel pain. And this is important because we can use that. And right now we are in this crisis, this opioid crisis, because so many people are getting accidentally addicted to pain meds. And there's so many pain meds being prescribed nowadays, but there's other ways to help address pain. So what if we attended to that emotional link, and then we could reduce that perception of pain, and we wouldn't have to rely as much on these medications. It's great that we have them because sometimes we really need them with surgeries and so forth. But if we can, more is not necessarily better. And right here, in our country, it tends to be that mentality. But less can be a lot more often. And I feel that for medications. I love that they're there when we need them. But if we could get away with something else that's more natural and better for you and without those addictive properties, then that would be really great. So for this first show, I want to introduce you to a patient of mine from a few years back because she has been through this. She has been through debilitating chronic pain. Her name is Rachel Foodie, and she healed from almost a decade of chronic pain starting in her teens. So she did this by addressing that emotional link to the pain, and her experience actually inspired her to become a certified emotion code practitioner and yoga instructor so that she could help others in a similar way. Rachel was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. She's always felt a calling towards helping others. Initially, she went to school for nursing, but ended up switching gears towards holistic medicine. She is currently starting a new business called Tilly Ruth in conjunction with her energy practice that manufactures and sells the most natural, non-toxic, and environmentally friendly products she can formulate. She's an avid animal lover with 2 dogs of her own and strives to help others in the earth. Total integrative approach here. You're going to love Rachel, and we are going to talk so much more about the emotional link. I'm going to share with you my perspective also and share with you some anatomy, some science to help ground it for you. And remember, you are flexible. The brain is flexible. So even though you might get stuck in this feeling of intense feeling of pain, there are ways that you can change it. And we're going to start going through some of those ways here today. Don't forget, you can now watch and listen to all exclusive and uncensored content 24/7 at uimediaapp.com. If you have any questions or would like to say hello, please call us at 678-495-4345. We're about to go on break. We'll hear from Rachel right after that.
Hi, I'm Greta Full, President of Golden Home Services, a premier private home care service for seniors in Georgia for almost 2 decades now. We all have parents, and I know I love my parents more than anything else in this world. And because of that, Golden Home Services makes sure we care for your parents as if they were our parents. Call 678-242-0084 anytime or visit goldenhomeservices.com to select from our range of affordable home care services.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Arlene Diamco with the MultiDimensional MD, here to help you supercharge your health in a multidimensional way. And I'm back here with my guest, Rachel Foodie, who has healed herself from almost a decade of chronic pain. So
It was a journey for sure.
thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is such a wonderful experience that I can share my journey and everything I went through, but also, some tips to help some people too, which is the real goal. So,
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about, how it started, what was going on with you.
So it started when I was 15 years old, sophomore year of high school. It was the beginning of the year, and I remember going into the year thinking, I just feel different. I couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. I just remember I felt like a general sick. That's all I could explain it as. And then it just grew worse and worse to the point where it was just completely debilitating. I used to play volleyball. I couldn't play anymore. It was just terrible. There was 2 parts in my neck. The upper portion of my neck felt like, not to be graphic, but like somebody was stabbing me with an ice pick that would go underneath my skull and out of my eye. And the lower portion of my neck would make me so physically nauseous that I would get ill and throw up. And
how did you go through high school like that?
it was really hard. There were some days that I would sit at my desk and people would look at me because my eyes would just be welling up with tears because I couldn't sit for a long amount of time. I couldn't stand for a long amount of time. I couldn't do anything for a long amount of time. And, in class, you're not allowed to get up and get down and everything. So it was really hard. Went to a bunch of different doctors. And when I was 5 years old, I broke my jaw and I landed on my face and my head. So a lot of doctors attributed it to that impact. And I'm sure that does play a point to a physical level. But besides that, they couldn't figure out what it was. I got brain scans, everything. And it was really rough. My now husband, David, when we were dating in college, so this is even years later, I would have to carry around anti-nausea tablets everywhere we went. Because as soon as it would come up, I'd be out. We'd have to leave.
Because the pain was that intense.
It was that intense. It would physically make me ill. And it's really hard for other people when, friends, family, loved ones, when they have to watch you in pain and there's nothing that they can do because you can't, you don't know what to do for yourself either.
How would your friends handle it? Like, what would people say to you?
It got to a point where they really didn't know what to say. It was kind of like, they would just, I guess, cater to me. But like I would tell David, and I remember we got tickets to something, and we were walking up to the line, and I looked at him, and I had this look, and he goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "We need to go, like now." And we just left. And they were super sweet and loving, and they did everything they could, and would prep me ice packs and stuff. But there's only a certain extent that you can do.
It really has that ripple effect, you not feeling well and then
it does
impacting other people around you.
Yeah, and the worst part beyond that was the physical pain, obviously, but I started to lose hope. And that's where it got really scary because I was scared that this was going to be the rest of my life. I was scared that this was going to dictate my life, and I didn't see a way out of it. And to have that pain and think that this is going to be it, you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life is really hard. And so I got really hopeless, and that's really tough. And that's what really took me to the edge and kind of broke me. And
how old were you then?
I was, I think, in college. It had been quite a few years of being in pain.
Yeah, that's a long time.
There's times where it was really, really bad and I couldn't move. And then there was other times throughout the day. I always had some sort of pain, whether it was something that I could manage that maybe to somebody else who got it randomly, it would be a lot of pain, but it was so chronic. It, was like, okay, I guess this is the norm. But I think it was in college. I was maybe 20 years old or something, 21. And I found you through word of mouth, I think it was. And
I'm so glad that you did.
It was a pivotal changing point. Because I vividly remember in our session, it was something completely different than I had ever done before, and I was open to it, anything, But I remember I was, on your table, and I started crying, this intense, deep cry. I cried during the session. I cried right after the session. I cried leaving the session, and you were wonderful. But I remember it was a different feeling. Anybody who knows me knows that I hate to cry. I don't like sad things. But it was so different from a cry where you see a sad movie or you see like a hurt puppy or that, Sarah McLachlan commercial, something like that. I didn't know why I was crying. It was just this huge, overwhelming like sigh that my body had. And this was the first time, and in speaking with you, that I realized there was something beyond the physical that nobody could figure out.
Yeah, that sigh is like such a great word for it because it's a release.
Yeah, my body was crying for help and nobody like could figure it out. And at a certain level, we only see as much as we want to see that we can see. And there was a different level that after meeting with you that I saw something underneath, and it really opened up possibilities for,
And then how
better.
did you feel physically?
So physically, I would realize, so my brain would kind of spiral whenever I would start to get in pain. I would start to feel pain and think, oh no, is the first one. How bad is this about to be? How long is this going to last? And then it would go to, I'm totally hopeless. I'm never going to get out of this. It's going to spiral and spiral, and I'll feel like this forever. And then you and I talked about this because that's the worst part to get to. And you need to take a look at that, take a step back, and realize that you're not hopeless. I remember replacing it with something like a coloring book one night because it was something that I liked to do that was like crafty, and it kind of give me good feelings. And my pain level came down a little bit. Not a huge amount, but enough for me to be like, there is something here for sure that I can do to manage my own pain.
Yeah, so that's really interesting for me, as an osteopath, because then you had a huge emotional release, and then the pain shifted some, was still there, but there was a shift.
Totally.
And then you start to realize like, wow, these things are really intertwined. It's like you don't know really what came first. Sometimes it doesn't really matter because, you had a huge accident when you were 5, and any osteopath would be like, oh, yes, that could definitely play into it.
Yes, wear your helmets, everybody. That's very important.
But at the same time, you left with this huge emotional release, and that was a huge thing. It's just like there's a shift, there's a wiggle room, that hopeless versus hope, and it starts to kind of play between the two instead of like staying right on the hopelessness.
Yeah, even if it was something small, I went from completely hopeless to somewhat dreading the rest of my life, because when you're in pain constantly, it's exhausting. But just getting that tiny bit of a possibility that there's something else, that I could have a normal life again, go out and do the things that I like to do. Even watching movies, somebody would ask me to go see a movie, and I would hesitate because I'd have to pick the exact seat because of how my neck was positioned. It changed everything.
And something you said, I hate to cry. That was something,
yes.
That was about you.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that is such a key, because it takes a lot of courage to address your own deep emotions. Yeah. And the reason they're so deep is because they're really important to you.
They are.
And they have to do with things that mean a lot in your life.
Yes.
So it can take courage to look underneath and see what's there.
Yeah, there was, I think my favorite quote is from a fellow energy practitioner. And she said, your body will manifest issues in emotional ways, emotional pain, distress, whatever it is. And because we're really good at shoving things down, and as humans, trying to cover them up, put them on the back burner, whatever, that the body then takes it and manifests those issues into physical, pain, distress, illness, because you can't ignore that.
And this is what I love to tell people. Instead of looking at what's going wrong with your body, with your mind, with your emotions, what's going right? And what are your symptoms doing that somehow it's doing it in the way that you want it to? So when I think about pain is the perfect container. You can hide in it anything. So if there's deep emotions that you don't want to deal with, the pain is a perfect container. It is all consuming. You can't think about anything else.
Yep.
And
definitely catches your attention.
Right. There's the surface emotions that have to deal with the pain, But then underneath that, there's other things. And I remember we had talked through some like mind body things of what emotions could be underneath.
Yes.
And there were like various things. I mean, anything in your life. A common one could be finances or an argument you had with family member or someone close to you. And those sorts of things would start to intensify pain. And what I tell people is like when the pain waxes and wanes, pay attention to that wiggle room, because if the pain goes up, see what you're doing and what you're thinking and what emotions you're feeling, so that you know exactly what's going on. Bring the awareness to it. And they've done studies on this. The National Royal Hospital in the UK actually did a study looking at the anxiety sensitivity. That's what they called it. And what you said, I hate to cry, that would totally fit into the anxiety sensitivity. So as the higher that was, it was associated with increased intensity of pain and disability and all that with the pain. But when they added a mindfulness program to address that anxiety sensitivity or fear of anxiety, I hate to cry kind of thing, that association reduced, so both the anxiety and the pain went down. And that's really remarkable because that doesn't have to use medication.
Yeah, things correlate more than we think they do. We like to a lot of times pay attention to just the physical body, but we're so much more than that. And things are so intertwined that sometimes it can be baffling, to see those underlying layers and everything.
So when you started to think about like from hopeless to hope, like what would you start to say to yourself, or what would you
So I would seriously, my husband would say I'd probably look a little crazy. I'd talk to myself out loud like, okay, you're not hopeless. You're just in pain right now, but that's because you're feeling this way. And I would try to identify, like you said, what kind of caused me to accelerate the pain. And, you're stressed about this, or it's, nighttime and you haven't finished blah, blah, blah. So, and kind of work myself back. And it's a good coaching method.
I mean, that's mindfulness right there.
Yeah.
It's like taking where you are, being not less judgmental of it, or non-judgmental if you can, and putting it in the bigger picture so that you can see it from various aspects.
Oh, totally.
And realize where you are.
We're a lot harder on ourselves than even if we know we're hard on ourselves, we're way harder than we even think we are. So after I met with you, I got that glimpse. I'd never had that much pain relief for that long. I would go through segments and meet with a chiropractor or whatever, and the amount of pain that I was in, or the length, it would get shorter and shorter and more condensed. So I would be in pain sooner after my adjustment and this and that.
So I love that. This was your key to like switching gears and
totally.
encouraging you to go on that path of yoga instructor, emotion code practitioner. So we're going to talk more about emotion code when we get back. Emotion code when we get back from this brief sponsor break. And don't forget, you can follow us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spreaker, and other podcasting platforms at UI Media Network. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, especially with any physicians, health practitioners. We need to wake up medicine. We would love your support. If you want to sponsor this show, you can email us at contact@uimedianetwork.org to learn how. This is Dr. Arlene Diamco, the MultiDimensional MD, here to wake up medicine, empower you to supercharge your health in all dimensions, including body, mind, and spirit. Next up, more about emotional code with Rachel Foodie.
Download the UI Media Smart app at uimediaapp.com to watch and listen to all your favorite shows anytime from anywhere in the world. Shows that enrich, entertain, educate, and feeds the conscious cells throughout your body. We bring you never heard before topics in health, inspiration, music, psychics, numerology, current affairs, controversies, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.uimediaapp.com and start raising your frequency now.
Hi, Hi, this is Dr. Arlene Diamco. You are watching or listening to the MultiDimensional MD, here to wake up medicine. I'm back with my guest, Rachel Foodie, who healed herself from over a decade of chronic pain and was inspired to help others do the same. And she became an emotion code practitioner.
Yeah, so that was totally meant to be. After I'd met with you, I found enough relief to start practicing yoga. And with that, I found enough relief to go through teacher certification. I did that more for me. Yes, I taught classes and I can teach classes, but it was more of a personal thing for me.
It's like each door opened another, and you
totally
started to be
is.
in the flow of life.
Yes, just looking for those doors to open. And actually at our first teacher training class, we all sat around and we discussed how we found yoga or, how we came to be here at teacher training. And so I shared my story. And I remember afterwards, one of the girls in the class came up to me and she said, that sounded like a very emotional experience. And I said, it was totally. And she goes, I'd like to recommend you to somebody if I can. And I'm once again open to anything. So she recommended me to an emotion code practitioner. And my first session, another thing that I'd never tried before, totally new, but it was so interesting. And I remember afterwards, after the session, because I was always in a little bit of pain, kind of all the time. But I remember afterwards kind of walking around and I was like, wow, I'm probably in about half as much pain as I was 20 minutes ago, during the session. So I started working with him more and more. And I got to a point where I was like, this can really, help a lot of people, and not a lot of people know about it. So I got certified myself in 2018. It's actually my anniversary month. Yay! And yeah, it's new, definitely new for a lot of people. But I think it's something that can really help people.
What exactly is the emotion code practice?
So emotion code, the way I like to explain it is everything is made up of energy in the world. This microphone, everything has energy, whether you can see it or not. So you also have your own energy. We'll call it your energy field. And when you have emotions, also energy, which get stuck and trapped in your body, it warps your personal energy fields. And so that can, over time, manifest into physical, mental, emotional pain, anguish, distress, comfort, anything. And we tend to overlook all the emotions underneath because, once again, we kind of pay attention to the physical body, what is now. And so I find those trapped emotions and release them. And one of the things that I love about emotion code is not everybody, like when you go to talk therapy or you meet with a psychologist or something, which I totally promote. I think talk therapy is very healthy. But not everybody likes to open up. Not everybody likes to relive a traumatic experience. So the nice thing about emotion code is I can find those emotions that are at the root or that are playing a part.
And this is done energetically.
Yes. And I find these emotions and I can release them without having to rehash the past, without having to go into detail or somebody sharing something that they're not comfortable sharing. And so it really applies and I think opens up doors to more people, because I've definitely worked on people and some people like to share their experiences. Like I like to. I'm an open book.
Yeah.
And somebody might be sharing all their experiences and they reach this one emotion and I say, does this remind you of something? And they go, yes, but I don't want to share it. And I'm like, that's fine. We can still release it anyway.
So you're actually addressing emotions, and it's not necessarily, you're not treating, because this is not done like on its own. Like for you, you had already seen all these medical professionals.
Yeah. It's definitely in conjunction with, but I don't think, just like I don't think, you should ignore your doctor. I don't think you should ignore, emotions and other things.
This is what I call an integrative approach, because, if your physician doesn't know how to approach the emotional aspect to physical discomfort, then someone like Rachel could help you do that by pinpointing, emotions that might be causing distress or any kind of stress in your life is linked to any kind of illness. So
Yes, it can be something as small as my pinky hurts today, and it was, whatever it
right.
is.
So it's
to
really overall well-being.
Right, because it plays a part in, it's bigger than we think it is, for sure.
And how do you first start with?
So when I first start a session with somebody, I explain to them what emotion code is. Not everybody does, and even if they do, I recap it anyway. But the first thing I always work on is called a heart wall. And so this can take a couple sessions, because a heart wall, so everybody knows that sinking feeling when like you get broken up with or you see something tragic or whatever, and your heart has that sinking feeling. And, they've even found scientifically you can die from a broken heart now because of all the stress and everything it puts on your heart. So your heart wants to protect itself. So what does it do? It takes all these emotions that are trapped and it creates a barrier over your heart and between everything else. And so it creates a sort of heart wall. And what that is it changes how you give and receive everything. Love, communication, wealth, abundance, everything. And the way that I describe it is, if you have a beautiful butterfly that you send out from your heart and you're trying to send it out into the world to a person, whoever, but it has to fly through all of these gross, nasty walls that it's trying to get through. When it comes out, it doesn't look like a butterfly anymore. Whether that was your intention or not, that is not what you sent out, what came from your heart. So the first thing I do is I clear people's heart walls. And like I said, that can take a few sessions, because when you think of how old you are and how many experiences you've had, yada, yada, it can pile up. And then I give them tools to keep their heart wall cleared.
And so from how I understand it, that heart wall is not just energetic. Actually, it's like you feel that physical tension in your chest,
you
like
totally
if you
do.
receive bad news. And we see this come up in our language with words. So how, from a broken heart, wearing your heart on your sleeve or pulling at heartstrings. So that heart physically and energetically is so important.
It's kind of like a weight lifted, and you feel more like your true self, because you have all this like gunk and baggage and barriers that are removed. So you're like, oh, this is like really me. This is who I am.
Well, we see the importance of that in anatomy, because the heart actually has, sometimes they call it its own brain. It has about 40,000 neurons just for the heart. And if we take a look at the connections from your heart to your brain, they have studies on this. And there are about 80% of the nerves actually send messages from your heart to your brain, then and about 20% from your brain to your heart. So a lot of times we think it's our brain in charge, but when you look at anatomy, it's like, who do you think is in charge or should be in charge?
Right. Yeah.
And so actually paying attention to those messages of the heart.
Yeah. And it's crazy. And I have some people, obviously, whenever somebody books a session with me or whatever, they have an idea of what they want to work on. They've had a lot of stress lately. They have an injury they want to work on. But I always clear the heart wall first. And it's kind of like if you have a splinter in your finger and a log that fell over your torso, you're not going to clean out the splinter first. You're going to clean off the log, and you're going to feel a lot better anyway. Then we work on some more minute, distinct things that you want to work on.
Yeah, and that heart wall, it just reminds me of what I said about pain. That pain is a wonderful container for things. Well, that heart wall is that protection. And so it's like to protect what's really important to you, but to have courage to actually look beneath it and to lift the walls.
It's a freeing experience on its own. It really is.
And to feel like those deep connections in your life, or what emotion might be underlying there.
It's kind of fun to find out the emotions. I like to learn about myself. So when I was working with my emotion code practitioner on myself, I like to figure out what emotion from when, like, oh, okay, that makes sense,
So what sorts of things can come up for you?
I'm really hard on myself. So I have a lot of, and like I said, I'm an open book, but I have a lot of self-abuse, and not physical, but I'm really hard on myself, and that wears you down after a while because
that's really common for everyone,
especially nowadays where everything is supposed to be, kind of more perfect, and so that and man, there's so many.
The way we think of ourselves is not how we would think about a close friend or
we're so hard on ourselves.
Right?
We never give ourselves a break.
That can change.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And you can do so much with doing that. I think that we have a caller.
Oh, cool.
So we'll go ahead and we'll see in just a moment. And then in terms of the people you've seen, what else has come out regarding the heart wall? I'm going to give people some idea of like what could build up that wall.
So, okay, there's a lot of different things, and it depends on your experience, and it can be from even when you were in the womb and everything, feelings that you felt from your mom. It all affects you. But there's definitely, anger, crying, frustration. There's so many different ones that are so powerful that to have a wall built up is extremely overwhelming. So when you have it removed, it's very freeing.
Okay, I think that our caller is ready. So we'll go ahead and take that. Hello, caller.
Hi. Am I on?
Yes, you're on. You're on air.
This is Karen. Hi. How do I know for sure if I have a heart wall?
So Karen's question is, how do you know for sure you have a heart wall?
Okay, so that's a good question. About 99% of the population has a heart wall, just because emotions and experiences, you can't really help it. But there are 5 things that you can look for, and kind of, you don't have to have all 5. You can have just a few of them that give you keys to, identify if you have a heart wall. First is low energy and low immunity. Second is indecisiveness with your mission in life. And I know that's one that I used to identify with big time. Third is desensitized heart, and that can mean a couple different things. So that can mean that you're codependent. It can mean that you have low empathy or you lack empathy. It can mean that you excuse abusive behavior. The fourth is your love language gets lost in translation. So once again, that butterfly that comes out doesn't look like how you intended it to when you said that, when you said whatever you said to your partner. And then last is lack of abundance and wealth. And your heart wall really relates to so many different aspects because it's everything you give and receive. So it's not just communication, it's, love, abundance, everything.
And that heart energetically and physically, but I know Heart Math has done studies on measuring the electromagnetic field of the heart. And it is 60 times bigger than the electromagnetic field of the brain. So just another clue about who's supposed to be in charge, and if we could allow it and listen to it and follow the messages and directions, that it's trying to give us. Again, what's going on with your body that's right? Like what is your mind, body, spirit trying to tell you? What's working for it? And it's trying to protect you. So you're the one that has to decide that it no longer needs the protection.
Yes, and a lot of people think that, wasn't the protection good? And the idea of it, yes, is it's trying to protect itself, but it's also kind of bogging you down in who you truly are, and you're not your pure self anymore.
So we're going to talk about this more after a brief sponsor break. We're going to talk about more examples about emotional code and emotional link with pain, with chronic pain. If you want to be a radio host or got a message to share, email us at contact@uimedianetwork.org to know how. And don't forget to tune in on Friday at 6 p.m. ETS. Host Tim Owens will interview certified love transformer Shay LaVister on One World Show. This is Dr. Arlene Diamco, the MultiDimensional MD, here to wake up medicine and empower you to supercharge your health in all dimensions, including body, mind, and spirit.
This is Kurt Arsenault of Arsenault Advisory Group. Do you make a six-figure income but live paycheck to paycheck? You're not alone. Many six-figure income households will buy too much home and too much car, creating tremendous financial stress that builds debt when you should be building wealth. If you make six figures and live paycheck to paycheck, visit arsenaultadvisory.com and download our free ebook titled, I Make Six Figures and Live Paycheck to Paycheck. You have nothing to lose and potentially everything to gain. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com today.
Welcome back to the MultiDimensional MD Waking Up Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Arlene Diamco. I'm here with my guest, Rachel Foodie, who is an emotional code practitioner and healed herself from almost a decade of chronic pain. So I think that we do have another caller, and we'd be happy to pick that up. So hello, caller.
Hi. I just got a question for Rachel. She was talking about the heart wall. Once you get rid of it, can it come back?
So that is a good question. So once you get rid of your heart wall, there are tips, and I give these tips at the end of when I work with my clients on how to keep your heart wall away. That does not mean it'll 100% stay away. I still clear my own heart wall every once in a while, but is nowhere near like what it was when I first had it cleared. And the reason for that is, like when you put sunscreen on, you can put it on and it definitely, protects yourself from the sun. But after a while, and if you're not reapplying, then you can start to get burnt and see, some redness on your face. So I definitely do give tips and tricks on how to keep it away and do what you can. But every once in a while, you might need a refresher. So that's a good question.
And mindfulness and being aware, it's a practice. Mm-hmm. So it varies day to day from moment to moment. We have life. There's ups and downs. It's not that we're meant to be happy all the time. We would love that, but it's really appropriate to have some feelings that we might, label
right.
as negative, because if someone close to you passes, you'll feel sad, you'll feel grief.
Right.
And that's okay. It's more that non-judgmental aspect of not labeling that emotion as not okay to feel it, because it's human to feel that.
Right. You can feel any emotion. How you handle it and hang on to it is really important. Like you said, the mindfulness of it.
So important to process it, because your heart is telling you. So if you feel a tug in your heart, when you feel that, it's basically your heart guiding you. And this is what I say, what is your body doing that's right? What is it trying to tell you? It's telling you that there's pain, emotional pain there, and to be gentle with yourself, to be kind to yourself, to take care of yourself, to give yourself time and space so that you can acknowledge what it's feeling.
Right.
And
to listen to it.
Yeah, to
instead
honor
of just
it.
Ignoring it. Yeah.
Right. Not to just skip over and be like, okay, well, I'm just
that was weird. No.
Yeah. No. I'm sad, but I'm going to make myself happy because I don't like to feel sad. That
Right.
actually tells your body to put up a heart wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not okay with feeling this. So therefore,
I don't want to feel this
therefore
anymore.
Protect me. Yes. So
Yeah.
the less you feel, and situations will happen. It's also not a good or bad thing if a heart wall goes up, because be thankful for it sometimes, because it's a coping mechanism and it's your way of really getting you through it.
Right. Yeah. It's totally, you definitely feel freer without it, but it does it for a reason. So when we do clear it, we can kind of go through and see. It's kind of interesting because you can go through the emotions and realize, kind of like an awakening for yourself. Oh, that's right. That did happen. Or I didn't realize that I was really that upset at that situation.
So, a follow-up to that question would be, does someone always have to keep coming back to you to make sure it's...
So everybody is on their own journey. I've had people before that like to keep coming back. I've had people before that want to clear their heart wall and move on to something else. I am not pushy by any means, because everybody is on their own journey. There are always emotions underlying tons of stuff, but that doesn't mean that
If you're human, you have emotions.
Right. I don't want people to get to the point where they get so, I'll call it nitpicky, I don't know if that's right, that becomes negative and they start being hard on themselves because they're worried of an emotion that got stuck. That's not the way that we want to move with it. It wants to be we want it to be a positive experience that you can learn from and release those emotions.
And the reason we feel emotions is because we love.
Right.
If we get hurt, it's because we love ourselves. As we see someone else get hurt, it's because we love them.
Right.
So it's to kind of step into that aspect of it's okay to feel bad sometimes and step into the love there. It's important. So we have another caller. So hello, caller.
Hi. I was just wondering what I can do for myself at home.
Okay, so that's a great question because it's really about empowerment and it's not that you necessarily need to come to see either of us to get better, but if you want to get help, we're always here for you. So something that I really like to walk people through is just a quick breathing exercise because there's so many tools, so many mind-body techniques, so many things you can do. But if you don't know them, then a quick one is to at least prolong your exhale. So breathe nice and slowly. Breathe in through your nose. And then when you exhale through your mouth, at least twice as long and nice and slow as the inhale. So what this actually will do is to boost the calming response in your body, which is responsible via the parasympathetic nervous system. So helps to balance you out because when we're feeling kind of like on guard or feeling like we need a protection, we're more in that fight or flight mode. And that's represented by the in-breath. So nice long exhale. I do this before I go to sleep because it helps me calm down from the day, helps me go to sleep. Even if I've had a hectic day, I can go to sleep much more easily. And there's many different things that you could do. But that's a really nice, easy, simple one.
I definitely use that one. I still use that one after learning it from somebody.
Yeah. And I mean, from yoga and meditation, there's
a lot of breath work.
Right. Very
that's
familiar.
Another thing we don't pay attention to is our breath. Your breath is life, so we need to breathe.
Right. And so it's even just starting to bring your awareness to your breath if you're not, because usually when we're feeling kind of wound up, we stop our breathing, we tend to hold our breaths. And so just bringing the awareness to let it start moving because the health is always in the flow. Being stagnant is not healthy. And so moving things, creating movement, whether it's energetic movement, balanced fluid movement, breathing, your heart rate, your pulse, all of that, it's movement. These are the rhythms of your life. And that plays out in so many different ways. So thank you so much. We are going to start to wrap up here. There's so many great things that we talked about in the show. If you haven't been with us the whole time, we were talking about the emotional link to chronic pain and how you can tap into and access your emotions to help reduce actual physical pain in your life. It's not meant to be done without a medical practitioner. So always, if you have pain is a sign that something could be wrong medically. So you want to definitely check in with a healthcare practitioner. But if you want to take an integrative approach, is to expand that perspective and to include these multidimensional aspects of your being. And I would love so much if more healthcare practitioners, whether physicians or nurse practitioners, PT, physical therapists, occupational therapists, anyone, if you're suffering with any kind of pain, whether from arthritis, whether from an accident, even if you have a physical problem, there is still an emotional aspect to pain because those brain centers in the brain, emotional pain and physical pain light up some similar areas. And a lot of those areas are closely tied to the limbic system, which is the emotional processing center of the brain. So don't forget to breathe, have courage
Yes,
to
be
delve
mindful.
into these things, because your heart is really telling you where you need to pay attention. And it's very, can be sticky sometimes to lift that heart wall.
It can definitely, it can be scary. Something new,
Very scary. Yeah.
To delve into yourself.
I mean, when you say I hate to cry, that's a pretty strong word to use.
I strongly dislike crying. Do I do it all the time? Yes.
But you know what? You've learned to allow yourself. And because, I mean, when I saw Rachel, the first 3 treatments, I think crying all throughout. I think we had to get someone to pick you up the first time.
It was, oh yeah. It really was intense. A whole body, I call it a cry from my soul, It was deep.
You can feel floaty, like what is happening to me, because pain, even though it's suffering, it can be really familiar if you've had it for that long. It's like, what would it feel like if you didn't have pain?
Yeah, something changed.
So I know some of you may want to get in touch with Rachel, so I'll let her tell you how you can do that.
So you can find me on my Facebook page, Foodie for Thought Inc., FOODY. You can also email me at foodieforthought@gmail.com. And I just started a new company called Tilly Ruth, and the website is coming soon, tillyruth.com, TILLYRUTH, and it'll be in conjunction with my energy business, all natural skincare and personal care products, crystal jewelry, a one-stop shop for you.
That sounds great, Rachel.
I'm very excited.
I'm so proud of her. She has come a long way, and this is an amazing process. I'm so honored to be a part of that. And thank you so much. I haven't seen her in years, and so thank you so much for being a part of this show. If you want to follow me, you can on Instagram at All Worlds Health, on Facebook at All Worlds Health and Pediatrics, and my website is allworldshealth.com. So I am always doing workshops, and I'll do tension and trauma release workshops. That is something we're going to talk about next show in 2 weeks at 4 p.m. ET. We're going to talk about tension and trauma release exercises, TRE, with the main U.S. trainer, Maria Alfaro, who actually trained me in teaching TRE. So I can't wait for that.
That's cool. I'm listening like, that sounds really cool.
Yes, it's a great follow-up for what we were talking about. TRE, it's like this shaking meditation that is creating a revolution around the world. It's taught in over 40 countries and areas of crisis, and also being used now for people just feeling stressed and want to calm down some anxiety. So this is Dr. Arlene Diamco, the MultiDimensional MD, here to supercharge your health in all dimensions, mind, body, and spirit. Lots of love to you. I can't wait to see you next time. 2 weeks, 4 p.m. ET, and I'll see you. Take care. Love you lots.
Me too.
Wow, what a show. I feel great already. Don't you all look at health in a whole new light now? If you do, please don't forget to like, comment, and share the show. And you can also watch all of Dr. Arlene's shows on uimediaapp.com. Catch her live every other Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern on WDJY 99.1 FM in Atlanta, Facebook Live, Spreaker, and almost all the podcasting platforms at UI Media Network. You can also write to her at contact@uimedianetwork.org with your questions, concerns, and comments. Like Hippocrates says, everyone has a doctor in him or her. We just have to help it in its work. And Dr. Arlene is here to do just that. The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show hosts or their guests.